In today's edition of the Mail and Guardian, education economist Nicholas Spohr wrote about the annual national assessments and why they are rather problematic. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, let's start off by you telling us what these assessments are.
Okay, so the annual national assessments are tests that are done in the primary school years predominantly, so it's from grade 1 to 6 and also grade 9. That test all South African children on standardized assessments in languages, so home language and first additional language, and mathematics. They're done every year since 2011, and you've got around 7 million children that are writing these assessments.
And what is government trying to gauge by doing these assessments?
So the reason why we have the ANAs and why they were implemented in the first place is before the ANAs, we only had the matric exam as the only standardized assessment that was done in South Africa. So that was the school leaving exam. It was the exam that was used for or is still used for entry into university. And they realized that we have no assessments earlier on in the schooling system. So we know that there were problems much earlier in the schooling system, but didn't have a way to diagnose those problems or to figure out where the problems were. Hence the ANAs. They're meant to be used to target support. So once we can identify which schools and which teachers are having problems, then we can identify them and provide support. But also to hold teachers accountable and schools accountable for the learning that's meant to be taking place in those schools.
Well, that certainly sounds very helpful, but if we read your piece today in the Mail and Guardian, you're saying, actually, these assessments are very problematic. Can you explain why?
Yes, sure. The main reason why they're problematic is because we're still in the teething phases of this assessment program. So these kinds of assessments, national assessments that can be used to identify learning gains over time, for example, which is what the Minister has claimed in her speech, the annual national assessment speech, and also in the report. Those things take 5 to 10 years to develop, and we are only 3 years into this assessment scheme or cycle. So the main reason why they're problematic is because of the way that the tests are set and also the way that they are administered. So they're set in such a way where they get a panel of experts in a particular grade to set a test. They set that test, the children write that test, they report the results. The following year, another panel of experts, probably the same panel of experts, sets another test, not identical test, a different test, that's meant to be of the same difficulty, and the kids write, and then we get the results. Now the problem is that means that they're not strictly comparable from year to year. They're also not comparable from grade to grade. So for example, if you've got 50% in one year and then this goes up to 60% the next year, this does not mean that there's an improvement. And this is what the Minister and the ANA report are claiming, is that the changes that are happening over time and also across grades, the marks are going down as you go towards grade 9, that this tells us something. Meanwhile, what we're saying, and in all of the educational assessment researchers are saying, is that the ANAs as they currently stand cannot be used for those kinds of claims.